From incredible wind gusts to dangerous avalanche warnings, it's been a busy week for the White Mountains, especially on Mount Washington. Weather Authority meteorologist Emily Santom is here now with more details. And yeah, the wind gust, 161 miles per hour.
I know, that's crazy. And you know what? I love talking about Mount Washington. We don't talk about it a lot. So when there's a busy week going on there, that's very exciting. Here's actually a live look at Mount Washington.
Look at that. And it's one of those things where if it's shocking for Mount Washington, it's very shocking for us.
Me. And I know our chief meteorologist, Charlie Presti, was an observer there.
Yep.
And he loves, if you ask him about Mount Washington, he will tell you everything. He loves talking about it.
And you want to say, oh, they've seen it all, but I mean, some people there maybe haven't seen a gust.
And you know what? They've seen a lot more than I have in my lifetime. You know, on Monday, Mount Washington did record a 161-mile-per-hour wind gust, which became the observatory's highest daily peak wind gust since February 2019. There it is, 161 miles per hour. So I will say this is very much up there, which is pretty interesting stuff. In order to get into the top 10, they needed to reach 170.
Oh, wow.
So they were only about 9 miles an hour off.
You're right.
Here, the record wind gusts on top of the mountain, we have the top 6 right here. April 1934 holds the record, 231-mile-per-hour wind gusts. I can't even imagine what that's like.
I cannot fathom that.
Try being in the middle of a tornado. That's just nuts. March 1924 actually held the record for 10 years before 1934 came in at 180. 1979 in September, 174. That was the 4th highest. The most recent, February 2019, that was especially on this list at 171. I did see a pretty high wind gust in 2020. Okay. On the list, I went through the highest for every single month on their Mount Washington Observatory website, which is a great website. I totally would recommend hitting that one up. If you're interested about any wicked weather, they have so many articles. They post all their research, which is very, very fascinating. They do a lot of things on that mountain I don't have access to here. So,
yeah, that's so cool.
So pretty interesting stuff. But something else we can talk about, that the White Mountains also faced high avalanche dangers. This past Monday, there was an avalanche warning went to effect throughout the day due to the possibility of large avalanches. This is the only avalanche they observed on Monday. This photo was taken from the White Mountains South. You can also head to the Mount Washington Avalanche Center website, and you can check out every single avalanche that's been reported. And then they send a crew out and they observe it and make sure that it actually happened. And they usually, it's interesting stuff. You can put a report in. They'll send a team out, and then they'll write back to the report. It's like a Yelp review.
Yeah, and it's sort of similar to when we have, you know, weather in the summer, like a potential tornado or a microburst or something.
When they go and
send out a survey team.
Yes, exactly. And it usually takes, the survey team, you know, in the summer usually takes about a day or so or an afternoon, but they're usually out pretty quick. They do have a good team. I know they've had a dog before.
Oh, wow.
So let's head out to Mount Washington, this area. So this area I highlighted, we have Mount Washington, Tuckerman Ravine, which is a big popular ski place. Usually, this is where you're seeing your avalanches up there. There's been 143 observations since September 1st. And just keep in mind, Mount Washington starts their winters several months before we do. They see snow very early. This past weekend, there were nine avalanche reports. Some of them, most of them were observed. So pretty interesting, you know, they did have that avalanche warning in effect for Monday, but this is all because of the winter weather we've been seeing. It was a little bit wetter, and we've seen a lot of snow. Maybe next week we can talk about, or even at the end of the season, how much snow Mount Washington got this year. Pretty interesting stuff. So there actually are peak avalanche months, kind of like peak hurricane season. They typically the peak months are between January through March, the meteorological winter, but we've seen avalanches as early as December, some in November, all the way through April. So definitely keep that in mind if you're heading out to the White Mountains. I know that's a very popular place to hike up the mountain and ski down, but there has been an abundance of avalanches reported this past weekend. So pretty interesting stuff.
So I just noticed on one of the photos you showed, you know, you can kind of see that sort of crack.
Let's go back to it actually.
And I'm just curious, is that sort of like part of the criteria or how they confirm, or is it just often they include these, you know, in the photos?
Usually they do look for the cracks. I'm not a specialist on avalanches.
Right, I know, so I don't mean to put you on the spot.
No, but good question. You know, when they do see those cracks and you can kind of see that the snow further up that mountain is maybe a little bit more elevated than the snow underneath, that's a really good indicator that an avalanche was, or some shifting in the snow and ice happened there. So I think being stuck in an avalanche is my worst fear. Maybe that's why I don't ski or snowboard.
Terrifying, yeah.
And I don't know, I just try to stay away. Snow can be very scary, it can be very heavy.
Oh, it's awful.
And it's always the worst when we see those stories come in about people seeing avalanches, getting stuck in them. So just definitely, it's a good reminder that, you know, we are in peak avalanche season. It's not peak hurricane season, peak avalanche season right now, and that runs all the way through April. So definitely take your time on the slopes. But, you know, the White Mountains and Mount Washington has been very busy this week. So.
I know, but yeah, between the wind, the avalanche warnings, all of that, just good to keep in mind. And so 161 mile per hour wind gusts.
Yep.
I think Christian was talking about trying to equate that to a hurricane. I think he said category 2 or 3, the winds?
I want to say 3.
Yeah, that's crazy.
That's a gust, and they were seeing sustained winds between 125, 135, and that's already too much for me.
Yes.
So, but I know a few people that have worked on the mountain and still do work on the mountain. I just know that they were having the time of their lives walking
they're
in
loving
the wind.
it. As long as they're being safe, you know,
Those
don't get blown away.
Those are the biggest weather nerds in the world who live up there and work
it
up
is
there,
so
which
cold
is
up
so
there.
amazing.
We got to see them do that trick again where they take like the bowl of spaghetti. And
Yes.
they haven't done that in a while, I feel like.
No, they have. Maybe we can send an email.
I would love
If
to.
you're watching, we would love to see the frozen spaghetti.
Please do the frozen spaghetti. Thank you.
Well, if you have any weather-related questions you'd like to ask our Weather Authority team, maybe more about Mount Washington, you can always email us at weather@wgme.com.